In a recent post to Instagram, Mackenzie Dern announced it, or she announced that she's now pregnant with a child and is expecting. And in doing so, obviously, she's going to be putting her fighting career on hold. So I'll just go through the article really quick and then talk about just sort of the impact that this is probably going to have on her career. So the article goes, she won't be fighting anytime soon in the UFC, and it's for a good reason. The undefeated strawweight, who last competed in May 2018. So right now that probably puts us about like 9 months ago. Um, Said that she's expecting a baby with her boyfriend Wesley Santos, professional surfer in Brazil. And then they're just quoting her from the post. I'll just read the whole post. So it says, God makes everything so perfect. I'm so happy to be able to share this news. I'm going to be a mom. I love so much our family, and now I have one more huge motivation for inside and outside the ring. Thank God for this blessing at Santos Wesley, so her boyfriend. I also want to thank all my fans and sponsors for the support during the life phases, and I can't wait to be back in the ring. And then a boxing glove emoji and a jiu-jitsu gi emoji. So just the obvious standpoint of this is congratulations to her. Definitely a big step in life to have a child, and it's gonna be something that it'll be exciting for her. Great opportunity. Hopefully, I know it seems a little bit odd with Leslie Santos. I think she's been with him for less than a year, so to have a child with him after a short period of time seems a little quick. But she knows how the relationship is better than anyone else. So if they're really clicking and things seem to be going really well, maybe the plan is for them to get married anyway, and why not now instead of later? So that's up to her. Another thing that's interesting to me, with the MMA, at least women's MMA, is starting to get big in the UFC. What we haven't seen yet, just because it hasn't been here for that long, is how women athletes are going to approach the whole pregnancy thing. So in a sport like tennis, for example, where women can make a pretty good living, oftentimes a lot of those athletes they'll just hold off. But another thing with tennis though is that oftentimes you don't really compete past your 30s unless you're spectacular. So an example of that would be Serena Williams, who recently had a well publicized pregnancy, but she's also the greatest women's tennis player of all time. But typically in that sport, it's not all that often that the top athletes will take time off in the middle of their career. But in MMA, at least in men's MMA, what we've seen a lot of is a lot of people who are in their mid 30s or even upper 30s who are still competing at the top level. So if you're a woman competing in MMA and you see that you can still be at the top level late into your 30s, then that sort of changes the calculation for how you want to go about deciding when you want to have a kid. Because if you're waiting until you're like around 40 when you retire, that I mean, I guess technically as long as your body can do it, it's not too late. But it is kind of late. That means that by the time you're around 60, that's gonna be when the kids like start moving out, and that's kind of pushing. And I can understand why a parent won't want to do that. And imagine if you have grandkids and you're like mid 60s by the time that the grandkid gets born, like you feel like you're gonna miss out on a lot. So if she made the decision that, hey, look, I'm planning on being in this for the long haul. So at 25, have the kid now. That's perfectly understandable. It'll be interesting to see how other top female athletes take the approach to that. It's worth noting in the ranking, she still is ranked at strawweight right now, so she's the number 15 strawweight, right behind Randa Marcos and Courtney Casey. Obviously, with the layup that she's going to have, she's most likely going to fall out of the rankings. It'll also be interesting to see if she returns to strawweight or if she decides to move up to flyweight, which was a question regardless before the pregnancy. I don't know that the pregnancy is going to have a major effect on that anyways, but it would make sense for her anyway when she comes back to come back at 125. As far as some other questions for her, and I think this is more of a question that's specific to Mackenzie Dern. It's not to say that any woman UFC fighter who decides to have a kid in the middle of their career has this issue, but I think with Mackenzie Dern it's fair because her former coach John Crouch brought it up. But there was concern that she wasn't exactly all the way in on fighting anyway. Like it was just something that she felt compelled to do. And when you look at Mackenzie Dern, she grew up under with the father being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu legend and Megaton Diaz, and I think there was a lot of pressure there just to kind of be a star in the Jiu-Jitsu world, and she was that. She won a world championship. I believe she actually won multiple world championships. So for her, maybe this is her trying to take a step out and kind of like live her own life. And it'll be interesting to see. I think again, this is all specific to her. This isn't about like just any general woman who gets pregnant, but also like there's also this concern. I think John Crouch brought it up where it felt like once she finally did lose, and right now she's 7-0, that there'd be questions of whether or not she felt the need to keep going and keep working her way to a championship, or if the plan was just to kind of like take the skill she has and see how far it can take her. And with some of the top guys in the divisions, whether it's Valentina Shevchenko or Rose. It seems like the skills that she has right now wouldn't be enough to win a title. So if her plan is just to kind of take the skill set that won her a world championship in jiu-jitsu and see how far it takes her in MMA, it seems like her career might not have a whole lot left in it anyway. And at that point, again, no reason not to have a kid. Again, hopefully the relationship works out with Wesley Santos. Hopefully that's something that lasts a while. Hopefully the kid comes out healthy, lives a happy life, and everything goes well from there. But this means that Mackenzie Dern likely won't make her return probably in another year. I don't know how far along she is right now. I don't know how much time she wants to give herself afterwards to settle in, but we're probably not going to see her for a while. During this time period, she's probably not going to be improving her game a whole lot, obviously, which is very understandable. It's worth noting that these types of interruptions happen sometimes voluntarily like this and sometimes involuntarily. For example, Dominic Cruz right now, he's got a significant shoulder injury. He's not spending much time in the gym improving either. But he didn't choose it. But that happens with a lot of top MMA fighters. They get injuries or they have to take extended layoffs. So the fact that she's taking an extended layoff, it doesn't mean death for her career if she's still interested in putting in the work and doing what she can to reach the top of her division. But if that's not an interest of her and she's looking to move on, maybe this could be a sign as well.